Hi, everyone. This is Michelle Gramoglia, the president and CEO here at Woodland Pond, and this is my weekly address for a Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. I want to start today with a casting call, and this is actually kind of more geared towards health center residents or residents that might have an interest in being an extra in a short film that's being done by a student here on campus next week. So she's looking for several extras to just sort of be milling around or help provide background presence for social settings. She's doing a very short film. It will be filmed in one of the rooms in skilled nursing, as we've done in the past. We use a monitor. We have a whole process and a policy in place for that. They will be completely in the residence. They don't film people on the unit, etc. But she's got actors. There's be a couple of scenes that are filmed on skilled nursing in room 1102. And then she will be filming at the nurses station on assisted living that's closer to the mountainside of the building on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So that is the 13th and 14th. She is looking for what she's describing as quirky residents and folks that may have kind of specific characteristics like a raspy voice. I'm not exactly sure why. Folks that might have some sort of a physical impediment that might show up on film. The film is about a resident that is in a long-term care facility and speaks German primarily. She's grappling with her diagnosis, and she has a visit with her son. They're also going to be doing a little bit of filming in independent living. So if you're interested in learning more about this opportunity, please be in touch with me or with the concierge or reception. We will get your contact information directly to the director. Her name is Emily. It doesn't sound like it's going to be an enormous amount of time, and it sounds like it's going to be somewhat winging it, not exactly the caliber of Poker Face. But we are always happy to host. We do this, every couple of years. We have a film student locally that comes and wants to use our location. It checks a lot of boxes, and to the extent that we have availability for a couple of days and can help them with their film project, we're happy to do that. There's confidentiality clauses that are signed and the whole 9 yards. We've done it a number of times over the last decade or more. But if you're interested, we are also looking for a couple of staff members to participate in, looking like you're maybe cleaning in the room or dropping a dietary tray. It was a little bit vague, so I know it's coming across a little bit vague, but I am the messenger. If you are interested, we will make you get into contact with that director, and we will have some more information that goes out specifically about filming in a separate memo, either tomorrow or Thursday. Yesterday, we had an interruption, as many of you know, related to Spectrum services. And anytime we have a situation like this, it's always an opportunity for us to learn something about what's going on campus. And I think yesterday's situation with the Spectrum outage, which was an accidental line break by one of the excavation firms that's working on construction, was an opportunity for residents to learn and understand that the Woodland Pond internet service and phone service does not come through Spectrum. We use actually a commercial scale internet provider that is not available to individuals in the community, but it is available to us as a commercial entity. And because of that, and because our line was not severed, it was our expectation that our services would remain fully intact. And for the most part, they did. We did not see the same service interruption that the residents did. We did have a couple of things that went a little tweaky as the day went on, and we think it might have been related, but we're working through that to try to understand why, because we wouldn't have expected that to happen. At this point, everything has been restored. And if your service has not been restored, it should have been. So if you do not have your Spectrum cable, your phone, or your internet, at this point, you should have had that all back by yesterday around evening time. We obviously needed to figure out a way to communicate the outage with you and then the recovery. And without having consistent access to internet and phone, that created challenges, and we recognize that. And so what we did in that case was we hung signs and tried to spread the word by word of mouth. But if you have any observations or suggestions about ways we could enhance that process going forward in a similar circumstance, please let me know that. The other thing I will say about the interruption in general was that initially we thought that before we knew what the cause was, we thought it would be a quick restoration with Spectrum. We then, based on the magnitude of what had happened and our history with these kinds of things, expected that it would take far longer than it did to recover from that. And I cannot praise our construction manager, construction team for really holding the subcontractor accountable, getting the Spectrum construction services in here because that's who was needed. It wasn't just a typical Spectrum tech. But getting their construction services out as rapidly as they did, the construction manager, they brought their senior supervisors out right away, and they did not leave the campus until everything was restored. And to see responsiveness like that is really what we're looking for in a partner of this caliber. They understand and understood the fact that although this wasn't a life or death situation, there certainly could be an argument that not having phone in particular could contribute to a life safety situation. But the last thing that's the best reminder for us is that our PERS alarm, the call bell system, so the PERS pendant that you're wearing, the call bells that are in the restrooms, the nurse call that's at our bedsides in the health center, all of those run off of what's called low voltage wiring, and it's a totally internal system. So the internet outage did not impact any of that system, and I think that was surprising to some people, but a really good reminder to always make sure you're wearing your PERS, because no matter what else is happening on campus, that's always a backup plan for you if you are having any kind of an emergency. So wearing that PERS pendant or being somewhere near a pull cord and remembering to use it if you have any kind of an emergency is really, really important. Couple of announcements through different departments. At this point, most of you have seen on Dave's weekly address from Friday and certainly physically in the hallway that the office outside of marketing is temporarily closed. That is because the ceiling grid in that corridor is being completely replaced. That's something that's happening basically everywhere that we're renovating. There is an entire ceiling articulation plan, much more elevated ceiling articulation than what we have now, which is generally either sheetrock or just a standard grid. There's a lot of design element in ceiling work, and that's the kind of thing that really elevates the campus. But there is ceiling work happening in that corridor for the next month. So you will use the new open entrance at the back of dining to get to the community building if you reside in South or Central. Incidentally, on the other side of renovation, that will actually become a secondary entrance to the dining room. Obviously, it will be finished and beautified, but that will actually be an entrance to the back of the dining room. It may be just used for emergencies, but it will be there, and obviously with design intent, not just the large opening that it is now. But if we have any questions or concerns about that rerouting, please just let us know. As you know, we will happily accept any construction grievance form, and we are responsive to those. If you have any concerns, just continue to keep us posted. I have been asked to let you know that the hostess station is now has personnel at it every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and again from 3 to 7 daily. And that provides all residents a perfect opportunity, again, between 10 and 1 and 3 and 7 to come to hostess, make your reservations. You do not need to struggle with the online system, although the online system is still available. we can help with reservations and questions that you have, any kind of seating, menu options. So we're very happy that that hostess will be manned during those hours and wanted you to know that. This Thursday, the library move begins, and I should not say that the library move begins on Thursday. The library move began months ago, and to the extent that you're in the mood to thank a neighbor today, I would sincerely thank anyone that is on the library committee. They have done an enormous amount of work getting the library collection ready for its move. You may not realize, but prior to this endeavor, the books did not have spine labels in sort of the traditional sense that you would see in a library. And I have since learned that the spine labeling it's like a whole dialect in itself. And an enormous amount of volunteer work has gone into creating all of those spine labels, cleaning up the collection, which is something the library committee does regularly, but this time with the eye towards the fact that we were going to be creating a temporary reduced library and a collection, and understanding that we were going to be storing some of the books. So there's been a massive effort up until this point. The packaging will begin on Thursday. The physical move of the stacks and library books that are going to be in the temporary location will happen on Friday. We are using a professional mover, and that was at the gift of Bill and Betsy Toole. They had learned that initially we were planning to use our staff to move the collection. The library committee, expressed some concerns about that, and ultimately we did get several competitive quotes. It's an expensive endeavor, but the Tooles generously offered to fund that packing up and the moving of the library, and then the packing up and moving the library back. So thank you very much to Bill and Betsy for that. I am not positive on when the computer workstations and the photocopier are moving. So stay tuned on that, but they will ultimately also be moved to the temporary location or in that vicinity, which is sort of the larger, what is currently a puzzling area in where Central and South kind of meet, actually where that new temporary door is by dining, and then fully into Central where there was I think there was a artificial fireplace, and then like a globe and a seating arrangement. That will be where the computer workstations will be. So at any rate, temporary library will be open for business at some point after Friday. And, the library committee will be working hard to make sure that how to sign books out and all that stuff is very clear. I do ask for patience with this process because, as with everything construction related, our number one goal is to make sure that you have what you need when you need it, but with the understanding that we make plans and then we tweak the plans. So we have a plan, we execute, and then 9 times out of 10, we tweak it a little bit to make it work better. That's going to happen here too. So just give us your feedback and we will be as responsive as we possibly can. At the end of April, we are going to begin doing a series of scheduled Go Icon training sessions with all of our residents. And this is going to be very powerful and very important because we're going to work with you to understand how all of the things that are important to you at Woodland Pines are going to be able to be accessed on your computer, on your handheld device, which is your phone or your tablet, on digital screens that are going to be hanging across campus. We know you're going to need one-on-one and group training. We have been working with a group of Go Icon pioneers, so to speak, among the resident group, and they have been absolutely instrumental in helping us identify through the lens of a resident what might be hard to understand, what we might need to think about tweaking in terms of presentation and so forth. So thank you very much to that group for your continued participation in that. We're also working with one of our, I'll call them a sister community on Long Island. It's Peconic Landing, which is in, I believe technically it's in Greenport, but it's on the North Fork of Long Island, right on Long Island Sound. Absolutely beautiful location. But they're maybe 5 or so years ahead of us in terms of their life cycle. And so some of the things that we're doing now, like renovation and expansion, they've been there, done that, and they're a fantastic resource for us. It's so nice to have these resources in the not-for-profit CCRC sector right here in New York. They're one of many examples of people that we can just pick up the phone, bounce an idea off of them. They have been using Go Icon for a number of months now, and not only have we had numerous meetings with their staff to understand how they've implemented, but actually there are calls scheduled with their residents that have led their efforts there. So lots of opportunity to share resources, very exciting. Again, once Go Icon fully goes live, that will be tweaked. You're starting to see emails coming through from there, but there will be more to come on that. More exciting news and offerings starting this Friday and for 3 consecutive Fridays. So the April 10th, 17th, and 24th from 1 until 2 p.m. in the Flex Space. Tanya Lopez, who is our registered dietitian, is going to be doing a series on spring cleaning, health, and wellness. And she's going to be focusing on different ideas that you can think about with primarily diet and nutrition, but overall health and wellness. As we think about spring cleaning, tips and trades, she's fantastic. I know a lot of you have worked with her in the health center to tweak your dietary regimen for your preferences and different things that you like or your doctors have for you. And we're now fully implementing that in independent living as well. I've seen lots of you that have had one-on-one sessions with Tanya when she's working with independent living on Fridays. So I do encourage everyone to put this on your calendar. Again, April 10th, 17th, and 24th from 1 to 2 p.m. With the registered dietitian, Tanya, in our Flex Space. Okay, I have several things from the suggestion box and rumor mill. This one says, waited an hour for Easter brunch omelet, lousy planning, exclamation point. I'm actually surprised that there aren't more of these in here because we absolutely underestimated how many of you would want omelets on Easter. And this is something that is a really great opportunity for us. Omelets are clearly something that residents want. I think Phil, I talked to him this morning. I think he said that we had 85 reservations for Easter brunch and 70 of the 85 selected omelets, which was far more than Phil anticipated and was prepared for. And we admit that. We live and learn at Woodland Pond. We apologize for the length of time. He did indicate that he feels like the longest that they tracked was roughly a half an hour, not an hour. That's sort of a technicality. I'm not really concerned about whether it was an hour or half an hour. What I'm saying to you is that we accept that it did not work in the seamless way that we wanted it to. So in speaking to him about what he wants to do next time we try this, first of all, he said set up many more omelet stations simultaneously because we are apparently an omelet loving bunch. But he did want me to know that it is absolutely in the plans that on the other side of renovation, when our entire programming changes and our entire dietary programming and dining program is completely revamped, he really wants to see us go back to a proper brunch with an omelet station and things like that. So these are really good ways for us to kind of figure out what does the community desire? How do we handle this? You have our apologies on this. I know that Phil has spoken to a lot of you directly. We don't always get everything right. And when we don't, we try to improve from it. And omelets were not the success that they needed to be on Easter. This one says, what a shame. The showing of a wonderful film, Hamnet, was spoiled by the bright overhead neon lights, which reflected across the screen. Can't something be done about this? This was a reference to something that occurred in the Flex Space. And Jason Irish, who was here on the weekend as our on-site MOD, had separately communicated with our leadership team about the frustrations with the films in the Flex Space. And he actually recognized that when he went and checked both days, actually, I think there were no spectators at either of the sessions he looked at. This person obviously was excited to see this Oscar-winning film I think it was the lead actress or the supporting actress that won the Oscar, and apparently the viewing experience was not great. So a couple of the lights in the flex space are emergency and they're on at all times from what I currently understand, but we have heard the feedback. It did get to the MOD this weekend that was on site, and we are looking at it. I do not have an immediate answer on that. This one says, I am totally against the closing of Lent Drive exit, and it will advantage a few people but disadvantage many. It is also a safety issue as the alternative is much busier and we will become more so with this change. So to that point, I'll take the last first. Woodland Pond does nothing without measuring twice or 3 times and cutting once. Before any discussion could be had with the safety planners in New Paltz about the propriety of closing George Danskin Way to all but emergency traffic, the very first thing to do was to hire an independent traffic engineer to do what's called a traffic study. And the traffic study is not it's commissioned by Woodland Pond, but it is not performed by Woodland Pond or any of the members of our design team. Traffic study engineers is a specialty among engineering. And oftentimes, if you were to pay attention to a planning board application, generally speaking, the applicant will secure a traffic study because the question of the impact on traffic is a big one. And in our case, we're very concerned about that, clearly. So although the planning board did not ask us for a traffic study, we prophylactically and proactively, I guess I should say, not prophylactically, proactively, we commissioned a traffic study several months ago. And we intentionally did it at peak traffic. The traffic study engineer was instructed to determine the time of year in our part of New Paltz that has the most traffic and to coordinate the traffic study at that time. And they do the traffic study over a period of days and nights, weekends and weekdays. There's an entire sort of algorithm that they have to follow. And then they let us know, and then we in turn share with the planning board the outcome of the traffic study. And the traffic study indicated that there will be no significant impact at all on the traffic on George Danskin Way, on North Putt Corners Road or on Woodland Pond Circle as a result of the expansion itself and the closure of George Danskin Way. Both of those things are explicitly mentioned in the traffic report. And this is exactly what we would have expected. Yes, there will be enhanced traffic, but if you were ever to really kind of watch the traffic coming in and out of Woodland Pond, the bulk of it is staff that's coming and going or operations related vehicles like trucks going to the loading dock or a waste management or things like that. Resident traffic is actually pretty minimal. And so the traffic study supported that. Yes, there is some, but the vast majority is staff. And anyone that attended the finance meeting yesterday saw that with the addition of independent living units, you really don't add a lot of staff. Right now, we currently have about 330 staff members on campus. The expansion will require us to add 8 to 10 at the absolute most. And that's where the most traffic comes from. Resident traffic is, for those that drive, you drive quite a bit. Most of you are not driving much at all, or you're taking advantage of Woodland Pond transportation. So suffice it to say, the traffic was evaluated and there is no expected significant impact at all on traffic. And there's different gradations of traffic, how it's characterized. And we're in a category called A. I couldn't tell you what it means. It's defined in the report. But the increase of the 81 units, actually, we ran it at 95 units. So we don't need to rerun it because we ran it at adding 95 independent living units, kept us in A, whatever A is. So no material impact, and that includes the closure of George Danskin Way. In terms of the comment about advantaging a few people, it's actually going to advantage probably no one at Woodland Pond other than just enhancing safety on George Danskin Way, which tends to be a little bit of a free-for-all right now. So I actually think it is going to enhance safety significantly in the back of the campus. But really, this is something that our neighbors came out really vocally as being concerned about increased traffic coming through George Danskin Way. And although we haven't talked about it much, we do get a fair amount of complaints from the residents, including photographs from the residents of the neighborhood, taking photographs. They write down license plate numbers. It's a pretty weekly occurrence that we're getting complaints about the traffic coming through the neighborhood and heading to George Danskin Way. And so in an attempt to be a good neighbor and understand their safety concerns, this is an opportunity that we are looking at. Beyond the traffic study, Woodland Pond has had a discussion with, right at this point, there's 8 different officials, both at the New Paltz level and the county level, about the closure of George Danskin Way to all but emergency traffic, and all have come out in favor of this. It turns out, and I did not realize that until the last several weeks, that there is actually precedent for this in multiple locations in New Paltz currently. And it's worked very well. The emergency vehicles have had the access that they needed when they needed it, and it has cut down on through traffic in different neighborhoods in a way that has really enhanced the pedestrian experience and really made the quality of life much better. So we're really pleased to have had a couple of those like instances to be able to reference. We have gotten nothing but positive feedback, and this is from the highway department, the fire chief, the police chief. We're waiting for the county to opine because North Corners Road is a county road. I've met with the town supervisor. He was fully endorsing of the plan. I do have a request in to speak to the mayor. And then with all of this in hand, we will take this to the planning board. There are a few legal hoops that have to be gone through, but our attorneys are working on that, and we have a plan to go forward. The next says it would be nice if we could expect all weekend movies to have subtitles. I have passed this along. So 2 out of 5 today relate to movies and subtitles. And I'm sensitive to the time because it's almost half an hour in on this, but I do have a pretty lengthy one. I'm tempted to read it in full because it's a little bit difficult to summarize. So it's generally related to this particular resident having concerns about expansion. I'm going to read it. If you were at yesterday's finance review meeting, this is going to be repetitive to you, and a lot of the concerns that are raised in this letter were well addressed yesterday. We are going to be making that 90-minute meeting with Q&A available on our YouTube channel. We are fully open about everything that's there. Happy to have anybody watch it, read it from the transcript, whatever you'd like to do. So if you want to drop off because you don't want to listen to me reading a 1-page single-space document, feel free, and I'll see you next week. Otherwise, to this person in a nutshell, I'm going to strongly encourage that you do watch that 90-minute meeting that we had yesterday. Every resident that was there present, whether it was a committee member or a crowd member that wanted to ask a question or make a comment, every single one got an opportunity to do so. I think we had probably about 50 or 60 people in the room. Not everyone wanted to speak, but everyone that wanted to speak did, at least by show of hands. And generally speaking, the feedback that we've received as a leadership team is that it was exceptionally informative. We walked away with a couple of things that we can go over more fully with the Finance Review Committee, and a lot of that information has already been exchanged even since yesterday. But let me get into this letter. Dear Michelle, I'm choosing not to identify myself because I don't want to be regarded as a complaining resident. Side note, it's okay. All of the residents complain, so you don't ever have to be worried about that. It's the nature of the beast, and I am the complaint department, so I say bring it on. But anonymous is completely fine. But I do wish to air my serious concerns regarding the future construction and expansion. What is underway should of course be completed and will be a beautiful improvement and will benefit future sales / buy-ins. But I feel, and I know I am not alone, very concerned about the future satellite and healthcare center expansion, and that it's way too overly optimistic and potentially much too expensive considering the unstable state of our current economy and the current extreme movement of wealth from the many to the few, that and the extreme rapidity of changes in our country, which has led to much destruction, violence, and unwanted war. Much better to concentrate on upgrading Woodland Pond as it is now I'm sorry, I have to put my glasses on. There are a number of areas which have been neglected or excluded from repair and upgrades unilaterally. It is frustrating to experience them while seeing all the resources going into the new construction. I would prefer to see things fixed first and hold off on expansion. Make what's here already even more excellent. Consider that many of us who have bought in and pay an astonishingly amount monthly to be here have had an expectation of peace and quiet and in our possibly shorter than longer time on earth at Woodland Pond, and we do not really want the inconvenience, the noise, the dirt, the daily confusion of 7 years of new construction. Seems a bit unfair to me. Know that expressing these worries does not mean that I don't appreciate all of the incredible things that you and your staff do on a daily basis. I am very grateful that you take a personal interest in each resident's well-being and concerns and your hands-on approach to running of this facility. Thank you in advance for giving my thoughts and concerns serious reflection. So without getting into everything that we rehashed yesterday, there is a significant financial benefit to expanding. And I implore you to please watch the presentation from yesterday with a mind towards and a focus on listening to the discussion about our operating margins and the history of our operating margins and the potential significant improvement in our operating margins by increasing revenue generating units. This is the single way that CCRCs enhance their operating margins in any kind of a material way, and that is Woodland Pond following the same approach. In terms of some of the unavoidable construction that is certainly expensive, if you have not experienced the health center or do not know the history on it, the design of our health center as it currently is not only an embarrassment, but almost to some extent feels a little bit criminal. The design was so poor and so dismissive, in my opinion, of the value of our seniors that we have a moral imperative to fix that condition. I feel very strongly about that. Like, there's an argument about whether or not we will need more health center beds or not, but all of that notwithstanding, the current condition of the health center in its construction is an unacceptable condition. The complete lack of thoughtfulness in design, the lack of exposure to outdoor natural light and the natural world, to me, is something that we as a community cannot ignore. We did not get into this yesterday, but we sued not only the architect, but also the developer on the original project. And the vast majority of the claims in both of those suits related to the design of the health center. So now that we are in a financial position to correct the really awful design that was originally created and the reality of the condition that we have, I feel is an absolute non-starter. Yes, it's expensive, but we've grown our financial position to the point where it can be afforded, and we should proceed with it. I do find a slightly incongruous comments in the letter, and this is not to be critical, but I do just feel the need to point out that on one hand, the resident is indicating that, of course, we should be completing the beautiful improvement and all of the exciting enhancements that we're doing now, but then kind of stop there. But then also then goes on to say that you shouldn't have disruption in construction and so forth. I think the reality is that once you're under construction, you're going to be dealing with, noise and certain things. I think that the construction manager has done an impeccable job with mitigating the risks of dirt, noise, dust. We've talked about this before. Those temporary walls are a godsend. If they had just used plastic walls everywhere, your experience would be completely different. They've done as much as they can to mitigate, disruption to you. And we as a community have done everything we can to make sure that your services are being rendered in accordance with your contract. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Everything's not perfect, but we've done a really good job. I'm very proud of the team on that. So I understand that it's disruptive, but you can't grow like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis without kind of breaking down first. And we're in that breakdown period. We're getting through it. We're going to start to see some exciting things coming forward. I think of all of the comments in the letter, the thing that concerns me most, and I hope you're listening and watching, is the comment that talks about that there are a number of areas which have been neglected or excluded from repairs and upgrades unilaterally. And you go on again to say it's frustrating to experience them while seeing the resources going into new construction. I would prefer to see things fixed first and hold off on expansion. We need details on that. Bottom line, 100%. Anywhere on this campus that you feel that there are neglected areas or items that have been excluded from repairs or upgrades, we need to know that, and we need to know that as soon as possible. We have a work order system that accepts work orders 24 hours a day by calling the front desk. We have a plant ops committee that is very active and is quite vocal, from what I understand, about letting Tom and the liaison to the resident council know if there are areas that residents feel are not being maintained up to par. And anytime specific concerns and questions can go to any member of our leadership team. So I'm asking you personally, if you would please be willing to share with me, with the plant ops committee, with a work order, absolutely any areas on the existing campus that are neglected or excluded from repair or upgrades, so that we can be aware of that. We have a robust capital projects budget every year outside of construction. We have an extremely strong and well-staffed preventative maintenance program, and our goal is to be either aware of all of the issues that might exist and have a plan in place to correct, or to be actively anticipating those and getting ahead of that. So to hear that you feel like there might be some places that are neglected, it really does trouble me. And so I would ask you to please be as specific in that, so that our team can be making sure that we have a plan to address those. Finally, I would encourage that if you have a feeling like that and there's something that may not be up to your standard, that the resident council ear sessions, which are not attended by management, but which are an opportunity for you to get your concerns on the table with resident council, they're an excellent resource for you, and you should always be encouraged to bring concerns to an ear session of the resident council. They will certainly escalate those to management as they see fit. So, wow, what a long address today. I am done for today. I will see all of you next week, and I hope you have a great one.